just today I want to kind of work on some basic editing abilities. So what I want to do is go to File, and that's just a pull-down menu. And hang on a minute, I wasn't in iMovie. So if you'll go to Import, not the import from camera, but just Import, and it says Movies. And so once you do that, you should have that folder on your desktop. And so over here on the left-hand side, my Documents is defaulted. Yes?
Mine says import setting, large or full.
I go full. If you never used iMovie before, and you have that window pop up, if you'll check full. That way you're getting the full quality video to work with. So I'm going to my desktop. Are you there, Trevor?
Yeah.
And I'm going to select my video clips for training. And then if you'll notice, I have different folders in there. I have Final News Clip from KVII. That's the video that they posted on YouTube from their footage from the science fair. I have green screen footage, which we're not going to use yet. We'll use it in a later session. Raw footage, which is where we'll be today. And then still shots. If you open your still shots folder, you're going to notice there's nothing there yet. So if you notice, you have all these videos here. Some of these are quite large, and I can't see it in this window. I could see it earlier in my previous window how large some of those files are. I'm just going to select just a handful of these to work with today. So I'm going to grab like video 1 through 3. And if I hold down my Shift key, like if I don't have anything down at all, I can only select one video at a time. But if I hold down my Shift key, I can grab multiple videos. So I'm going to hold down my Shift key and click that. And I'm going to click 3. If you notice anything in between there, we'll select those as well.
You can click on 1 and just drag just hold it down and drag it.
Click 1 and drag. That may be something new I didn't know either. So, okay, so I didn't know that either. So that's pretty cool. So I always use that Shift key. So if you click and drag, that's pretty cool. So I like learning stuff too. I'm going to make sure it's large. You have full or large. I'm going to go ahead and go full because I want that original size. Sometimes that can be a little boggy, and we'll kind of see how it works with us today. But I'm just going to select those first 3 videos and say import.
You said large.
I'm going to go ahead and go full. We'll see how it works with full. Sometimes full will bog you down a little bit.
Right now, I'm just got a bunch of these.
Okay.
So you just got a list.
No, that's okay. You can use those. Don't worry about them yet. Okay, I've only got 6.9 seconds of video in this clip, and the way I know that is just by hovering over it. It shows me that 6.9. This clip was only 2.2 seconds, and this clip is 2.2 seconds. That's not a whole lot to work with, so I'm going to go ahead and grab me a few more videos. So I'm going to go back to File and say, same thing, Import, Movies. And I know I have 1 through 3, so I'm going to go ahead and grab 4, 5, and 6 also. And y'all may want to do the same as well. Just so we have more than just a few seconds of video to work with. I think I ended up with some of the video you had there, Lori. So like this one right here, when I hover over that clip right there, I've got 1 minute and 19 seconds, and if you see it's right here that I'm looking at. So I've got a pretty significant amount of video right here. That was probably video 4, I bet. And then down here, that's 5.2 seconds. That is if you go ahead and click on a video like that longer one, and I double click it, you see how everything's yellow that's part of that video?
Oh, okay.
That lets you know that's all one big recorded scene. And so that 119 is there. If I double click here, it turns yellow, and it's only 6.9 seconds, and so on.
Okay.
So that's how you can tell what's coming from where. Now this little window pops up saying, do you want to edit this video? Do you want to do something with it? You can just say done, because we were just kind of seeing what the video clips were together. So let's start off with something kind of basic that we would probably want to do to start off our videos, such as a title screen. These buttons down here are really kind of cool. This one lets you use music or sound effects, your little music note that you see there. This button right here next to it allows you to pull in photos that you have in iPhoto. And so if you are using still shots, which we will get into in a future lesson, how to use still shots that you've taken with your kids or things that you're doing. Your little T right here will allow you to incorporate text or scrolling bars. You know, in movies when you see the credits or opening screen stuff, that's what you're going to use. The little square you see with the two triangles in the sides, those are transitions. And you're probably familiar with transitions anytime you see a movie. They tend to go by and you're not really noticing them, but it's a neat way to go from one scene to another, and they tend to blend. You see it a lot in the news where maybe footage will fall out and new footage will come in.
Like
And-
a slideshow.
Yeah, and so it's really nice. And then this little world icon you see here allows you to use some pre-designed backgrounds and things like that. And so that's what we're going to click on right now for our opening screen. We're going to go ahead and click the little earth that you see there. And this is really handy for science and for social studies because it has lots of maps that are built in. And I use these quite a bit for my opening screens. But if you just want a generic background, you can use like the curtain, this organic one, this blobs moves. Some of these are I think these top four right here are kind of three-dimensional and they move, which is kind of neat. The ones below them are more just standard backgrounds you might see somewhere. So let's kind of go with, I want to use the curtain. You're welcome to use whatever you want. So what I'm going to do is just click on it and keep my finger held and drag up to this point right here. And it's going to give me my little curtain shot that you see right here. So anything I see over here is basically my movie being built.
Okay.
Now, once I click on it, it shows me that curtain comes in defaulted at 4 seconds long, which is typically what you would want for an opening credit or title slide. So I'm going to stay with that 4 seconds, and we'll talk about later how to adjust that time if we need to. So whatever you grab there, feel free to grab it. Now, one thing you'll notice, like Trevor, if you were to grab this old world globe right here, it's going to pop up a screen on me. Because what's kind of cool about this one, it gives you a starting point and ending point, because it will revolve the map as it plays through. So a lot of times I start on another part of the world, and then I end it at Amarillo. That way the globe is moving to Amarillo, and then by the time the scene shows, it kind of shows that this lesson's from Amarillo or whatever. And if you were to do that at starting locations in San Francisco, then that's because that's where Apple's headquarters is, if I remember right. But you can pick anywhere in the world as your starting point, and then you can come back and use your ending point, choose an end location, and always just put Amarillo. If you'll notice, it tends to fall on international airports and things like that. But I think you can also do it just by Amarillo, Texas. But I'm going to delete this one for now and just go with my curtain screen. Right now it's pretty plain. If I were to play my video, which you can just click here and just hit this little play button here, here's what you'll see. It's just a waving little curtain, and that's pretty boring for right now. So we need to add some interest. So what I'm going to do is go to my text tool, which is right this little T. And I want to, and here's what's kind of cool. You can hover over these. You should be able to. It kind of shows you what's going to happen, so you can kind of get an idea if there's any motion, like a scrolling credit. The text comes in like this. And so I'm going to use this one, and all I'm going to do is click on it and drag it up here. And if you see it totally blue out, that means that the text will be on the entire scene of this. If I just see a portion of it, like this, then my text will come in where it starts blue and ends blue. So like right here. But because this is only 4 seconds long, it's not a lot of time for your viewer. So I really want my text to be for the whole thing. And so in this, I'm just going to put, once you click it, you can come over here to this side and change your text. And so I'm going to put this as Introduction Video Lessons. And you can always change your fonts. It doesn't give you a large variety of fonts to move with. I think you can go to more fonts using your system font panel, but it's just more labor intensive, so I typically try to find something that works. Now, one reason you may want to do this is sometimes what you've typed in, there's not enough room for it to all be there. So some things you can do, you can make your type less by choosing a smaller font size here. Of course, it's always nice to maybe get the bigger size or close to the biggest size you can get. So I'm going to click on 6. You can change your color if you want to. Of course, try to find a good contrasting color. White is always really a good visual if you're going against a solid background, so I tend to stay white or yellow. Impact's a good font just because it's really bold and it's compacted, so it doesn't take a lot of room, but yet the letters are fat. I tend to stay away from these, they call them serif fonts, where you have the little edges on them. they tend to get too thin at times and harder to read. So I always try to stay with a sans serif, meaning there aren't those little tops like you'd see on an I and a T. So I try to stay with something that's easy to read, that's not going to take much for my viewer to watch. So I'm going to click that and say done. And you can say done here. And now if I watch my video, here's what I see. Okay, so it gives me now my introduction slide. I'm not going to worry about sound effects right now. Not really interested in that. I tend to put sound effects towards the end of my videos because I want to find the mood that I'm looking for and the way that the music or the sound effects fall. But now what I want to do is, if you notice, your screen's probably not as cramped as mine is because I'm viewing through a projector. So you may have more room over here than I do. But what I'm going to do is X out of this tab here. That allows me to get more room for my video footage I'm looking at here. So one thing you can do if you're just kind of interested to hear what's going on in the video, like I could come to the beginning of this one, and Darla, you mentioned that red line. And so if you notice my red line's right there at the beginning of this. So I'm going to hit my space bar.
Box not only attached to the computer chain. This will be our first step is completing this.
And if you watch the red line, it kind of shows you where that part of the video
on
is.
this side to see the blade.
So I'm looking at this one right here.
Just
So wherever this is what's going on here.
kind of explain how you work. As soon as the blade cuts the screen, this one will be raised up, and it will act, this weight will fall down and activate the nostril. Yeah, probably. Be careful. I've been doing this.
Okay, so what I tend to try to do is find the part of the video that has the most interest or is really what I'm looking for, because grabbing all minute and 19 seconds of this, if I'm really trying to focus my attention on my lesson to about a 10-minute video, I don't need any dead time in there that's not useful for my students. So some of the beginning stuff that Sawyer was saying there, not so interesting, something I could kind of delete out and not worry about. So let's kind of find an area.
Down and activate the nostril.
He's talking to a judge right there.
Be careful. I've been doing this.
Okay, I kind of would like to see the judge and the interaction between Sawyer. So what I want to do is kind of find that area. So I'm watching in this top right-hand corner kind of what's going on. And I like the fact that the video pans from behind and to the left of him. That's kind of a good draw. Anytime you have a video that's kind of moving and in motion, that's getting it kind of draws your viewer into it. So I want to come right where it kind of comes up on Sawyer's back and then moves around to the judge where he's talking. And then he kind of messes around with his project a little bit. So I'm going to start right here. And what I'm going to do is click. If you notice, I get a yellow box. I think that yellow box is about 4 seconds. And I'm just going to drag it to where Sawyer's kind of messing with it a little bit. And that's plenty of video. In fact, if you notice beside my box, I show 16.5 seconds. So whatever I've selected in the yellow box is 16.5 seconds long. I want to be very mindful of that because I want to be aware of, as my video is progressing, how much time am I devoting to certain parts of my video. So once I have that yellow box selected, all I have to do is take my little hand that you see and just drag it up and drop it right next to the curtain screen. And it's going to pull it right there. So now when I play, it's going to look like this.
This one will be raised up, and it will act, this weight will fall down and activate the nostril. Yeah, probably. Be careful. I've been doing this.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm doing right now, sometimes I'll hit my escape button to come back to this screen to say, okay, I'm kind of done watching what I'm seeing. And so I'm okay with what I've got here. I might have wanted to trim a little bit off of there, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. When we use transitions, meaning I want to go from my curtain, I don't want just that flat bam bam. I want an easy, smooth transition between my opening screen and the video that you now see with Sawyer. And so I want something more smooth than that. And a lot of times that can take about a minute, or not a minute, but about a second and a half for a transition to take place on both sides. So I'll basically be trimming a second and a half off of my curtain. I'll be trimming off about a second and a half of the video that Sawyer's in. So just be aware that sometimes you need a little bit of fluff space. And I'm okay with that because when I started with the film from behind him and came around, that was a few seconds there. So to lose about a second or so of that, It's not going to hurt my feelings at all. And so now I'm going to click right here on my transition screen, and I have lots of really cool effects here. I have the ripple effect, and you can kind of hover above that. It kind of lets you see what's going to happen. This cross blur and cross zoom, I've really kind of fallen in love with those. Those tend to look more professional, and they tend to draw you back in. And then I also like these spin outs and spin ins. I think they're really kind of cool. The ones below here, I think they kind of look a little jicky, but you know, I have used them, and especially if I got a long video where I've got lots of transitions going on, I don't want to continue to repeat the things that I like the most. I want to kind of dribble the other ones in as well. So for this one, let's actually use a page scroll. It's kind of cool. So I'm going to pull this in, and all I'm doing is just, again, clicking and holding onto that and pulling it just in between those two slides, and you'll see it turn green right there, and I just drop it. And so now, instead of always going to play full screen right here, I'm just going to go to my red line right here, and all I want to do is just watch it over here. So I'm going to click my space bar and kind of see how that's going. See how it flips? Go back to that again. See how it kind of flipped out? It just adds a different dynamic, a little more draw to your viewer to see a transition like that happen. Now, if I don't like that effect, if I say, you know what, that effect just kind of is not what I'm looking for, I can delete it. So I can just select it and delete, and I can grab another one like this cross zoom and just drag it up there.
This one will be red. Delete that? Oh, right there.
Yeah, if I hold on to it, I select it and just hit delete. It's going to go away, and I can grab a different effect if I want it and just drag it. And look how the cross zoom looks different.
This one will be red.
It kind of pulls in, and you can actually draw that out. This is kind of cool. So we talked about timing earlier, how to change times. So if on this transition I say, okay, I want this transition to last longer than half a second, because right now it's 0.5. So I'm going to double click it, and I'm going to select the 0.5 here and just change it to a full second. So it's twice as much time than what it was before. Now here's something to be aware of. If I have this box checked and it says apply to all transitions, if I have that checked right now and I say done, what's going to happen is every transition from this point forward will be 1 second long. I don't want it to default to that, because this is just one of those special incidences where I want this transition to be longer, but not all of them. So I'm going to uncheck that box and say done. So now that transition takes a little bit longer, and
This one will be red.
if you notice, it's just, you know, it's a slower pull in, which anything like that to me just kind of, it just grabs that attention of that viewer. And I think what you need to do when you're working with these things is always be mindful of who's watching it and what interests you. If it's more interesting to you, it's going to be more interesting to them. Let's practice putting a sound into that transition. So whatever transition you might have used right there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my sound file, which is right here. Something that I've become more mindful of is really cracking down on the internet on copyrighted material. In the first videos I started using, or putting together, I was using a lot of iTunes stuff that I had in my iTunes library and not being too worried about it. And I'm really not that worried about it because I don't use that much of it, and we're education, they tend to look at the other way sometimes. But I really want to try to be as legal as I can. And so, if you will click on this top bar right here, you'll see lots of different varieties of things you could check, like your iTunes and stuff. You could pull music from iTunes, and I wouldn't be so worried about that if it's something you're not publishing to YouTube. But here's the thing I think we all should be mindful of. If in the future you think that YouTube's a great idea and you want to utilize that, then you need to be a little concerned about posting things that are other people's material out there. But iLife and iMovie sound effects are all royalty free, and you can find lots of royalty free music and other things out there that you can use for free, and they're free to download. And so try to go to iLife sound effects. Sounds like Trevor just found them. And you'll start getting very used to what's in these folders, like ambience, animals, booms, follies, jingles. Jingles are your background music, which are very nice to have in the background of something that's going on. But right now I just want to find a small sound that would sound good with that transition. So I'm going to pick, I'm going to go to stingers for a second. Stingers are a lot of the comedy, cartoon sound effects like this. Just different things. your computer is about to explode. Yeah. If I go back, let me try to go back here.
Oh, I see stingers now. Okay, I'm with you now.
Okay, did you find stingers? This little folder, this little bar right here allows you to go back and forth. The reason why this one doesn't have a drop down is because it's just a folder with a bunch of miscellaneous sounds in it. So it's not like it's a folder within a folder. But this one here is a folder within a folder, and they're actually divided out into different things. And so let me go back to stingers and see if I can find. And here's something else I will do. I will click on time so that things are arranged by increasing time or decreasing time. If you notice, these are just 0.1 second, or are they 1 second? They're 0.1 seconds, I think. No, they're 1 second. And so, because I'm just looking for a short sound, it narrows my scope down to see what I have. I would not want to be down here in like the 11-second stuff, because I don't need anything out of that. Now, there is a way you can take a snippet out of those sounds, which I think will be for a later date when we look at those. That's actually my cell phone one. I actually copied that for my cell phone for texting. But I think I'm going to use that for my transition. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to take this synth zinger and I'm going to drag it up. Now here's something you need to be aware of. If you see the whole background turn green right there, that means that it's going to spread that sound all the way across your video. It probably would not do that here because it's only a 1 second sound, so it will probably drop it somewhere and I'll have to move it. But what I want to do is drop it right here on the end of the curtain, and you'll notice the sound is right here. And the length of the sound spans from this point to the end of that green bar. And so now if I play it, okay, so that's what I get. And now I can drag it a little bit so that the sound maybe comes more in where the transition starts. So I'm just trying to drag it a little bit. Go back over here a little bit. I'm just kind of playing around with it till I find something I like.
Yeah, I got it. That's pretty cool.
So, and now if you'll notice that sound tends to overpower everything else. So I want to lessen that sound. It's a little too in your face. I want it to be subtle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click my sound. And where it says audio, I'm going to click on that. And if I'm going too fast or you need me to repeat something, just holler back at me. I know I'm quick at going through stuff sometimes, and I don't want to be that way. I'm trying to avoid that at all costs. So once I click my audio, my slider shows the sound is at 100%. The center is 100%. What it was recorded at is what it's going to play at. I want it to be about 30. So I'm going to drag it down. Actually, I'm going to go more 15, about half of 30. So I want my sound actually about 15% of what I have now. And I'm going to say done. So now when I play it, it's just kind of subtle. It wasn't real big or real powerful. And the thing I want to, since we're in sounds, let's try adding a little bit of music behind my introduction. And so then that synth sound I have as my transition will still be there, but yet I'm also competing against whatever music I have. So what I want to do now is go back here where it said stingers. I want to click on that and I want to go up to jingles. So if you'll find that. And there's something else that I just saw that I want to bring your attention to in a second. Okay, everybody see jingles? Okay, same thing goes with jingles. Are you there yet, Darla? Nope. This little slider bar right here, which is kind of what I was fighting with on Darla's computer a little bit. If I go this way, it makes everything shrink up for me, which makes it very hard to manipulate things because I don't have enough room to play with stuff. So the more I have it to the left, the bigger my stuff gets, so I have more room for my hand to move around. The problem is, like when I was on Darla's just now, it's hard to move that little green bar unless you have your little hand showing up. And there's only a small portion where that hand will show up. And so if I enlarge things, then my hand becomes available at a much greater area and I can start pulling around and playing with stuff. Now essentially what you're doing sometimes when you're playing with shortening this green bar is you're clipping your sound. So you might be dropping a little bit off the end or off the front. If I'm dragging from the end, I'm trimming from the end. If I drag from the front, then I'm trimming from the front a little bit. I really don't want to get into audio manipulation right now because I just want to stay on our basics right now. But if we have a sound near our transition, I'm going to reduce this a little bit so I can kind of see some things a little bit. I'm not quite where I was a minute ago, but if I'm pretty close to coming in on the sound with that transition, then that's all I'm really after right now. I'm not quite there yet. I could play with it for a little bit longer, but I don't want to waste a lot of time on that. Those little nitpicky things, it just gets to where you start fine-tuning some of that at the end. But what I want to do is, I know I have 3 seconds now, because that little bar right there says it's 3 seconds. Remember I told you the transition is going to eat up a little bit? And so I've really got 3 seconds of time that my curtain call is going to be playing. So I want to look for a small portion of a small sound I could use. I've used this one before. It's not bad for an introduction. There's some that are actually better. There's this one that's called, where's it at? Broadcast News. Now I think y'all probably heard similar music coming into a newscast like this. I use this quite a bit, and in fact, I will go ahead and use that and show you how to trim that clip a little bit. And I'll use a basic trimming technique because I think it's going to play itself pretty well with the introduction slide I have. So I'm going to drag it up here, and I'm going to put it at the very beginning of my curtain. I'm going to drop it. Now if you notice, the green bar of the music goes further than what I want it to. And so if I'm playing it right now, now if you notice the music kind of faded out just because it has a fade out naturally built into it. But what I'm going to do is grab the right hand side of my music bar, and I'm going to drag it right about there, because I still want the music coming into that transition a little bit. Now if you'll listen to it now, okay, then it goes into that. If you notice, where I trim it is not always a natural stop for music. And so it just kind of leaves you hanging. One way to avoid that unnatural stop is to double click your audio bar and go to audio here. You'll see some tools here that say fade out or fade in. I don't tend to manipulate the fade in very often unless I've trimmed the clip somewhere in the front. But most of the times you trim a video or an audio, you're going to trim it in the back. And so I want it to fade out a little differently than what it's doing naturally on its own. So I'm going to click manual fade out, and I want it to fade out about 1.5 seconds or so before it naturally would have otherwise. So now listen to how it sounds. See how it naturally faded out at that point? So now it seems a little bit more like a professional put this together. The music fades off as the video is coming in, and so now I can work with that. Okay, now if you notice my little zinger that I put in here for my transition, you can't really hear it now. It's kind of there. So now that I know that I'm competing against some music, I have two options. I could either lessen my the amount of volume that's coming off of my broadcast news, or I can increase my transition. And because I want a pretty strong, powerful sound coming into it, I'm going to go ahead and increase my transition so that I can still hear it over the music, but I don't want it to be 100%. So I'm going to re-bring that up, and it was 15% before, so I'm going to try maybe 40% and just kind of test it out and see what it sounds like. So I hit done. So it was there. I could hear it, and I'm okay with the way it sounded. I'm going to drag that back just a little bit. Now, one of the limitations, I think, of iMovie is that I would really love to put this transition right there on my transition itself. If you notice, it's got an anchor. This little green bar that's hanging up says it's anchored to this video. So if I delete this part of the clip, if I delete anything in this clip that's anchored to, that audio will fall away also. If I decide to delete my curtain, then this will be deleted, the blue bar, because it's also anchored to that, as well as my green bar for the broadcast news clip. But however, my transition audio won't fade away because it's anchored to this clip. And so if I watch it in full view now, that's what I have. And so it's coming together, and I tend to build it just like building any kind of Lego house. I start with something just fundamental and work with it. Now, as I'm looking at Sawyer work here, there's not a whole lot going on here, so I'm going to do something kind of, I'm going to add to this. I want to put my own voice in here about what's going on with Sawyer, okay? First of all, if you knew about the video, Sawyer had a non-working Rube Goldberg machine, and he was trying to show the judges what would happen if it worked correctly. And this judge is very intense in watching because he's very interested to see what Sawyer put together, because it was a very good and elaborate machine. It's just everything that needed to work didn't work. So I want to explain that to my audience that doesn't know this, because right now they're just seeing Sawyer messing with something, but it doesn't mean much to them. So what I'm going to do is click the clip, and I'm going to use this little microphone voiceover that I have right here. And rather than you guys follow along with me right here, I'd like y'all to just watch what I do, and then y'all can mimic it if you would like. And what this allows me to do is voice over his clip. You hear this a lot in things that you see, especially documentaries where there's video going on and somebody's narrating it. That's essentially what we're going to do here. It's going to record straight to your laptop mic. And so what I'm going to do is click on the microphone, and it kind of shows the volume that I'm getting right now in these bars. So just talking from this distance to the mic, you can tell it's picking me up really, really well. I don't want to overdo it, so if I get really, really close, it can get overdone. So I want to just speak in a normal volume, and voice enhancement, I never really mess with that. I think it just kind of adjusts your volume and your tone so that it sounds consistent throughout. And so that's kind of there just kind of be a reminder of me. Now as I'm talking, it's going to show me what I'm talking through over on the right hand side. So I can kind of be thinking ahead what it is I want to say when it gets to that point. And so all I'm going to do is click here, and it's going to give me a 3-second countdown, or 5, I can't remember which, and then it'll beep and let me know that I'm recording. And you'll also see it red going across where I've recorded. So here we go. Okay, in this video you're seeing Sawyer showing his Rube Goldberg machine to a judge. Now, in the event his Rube Goldberg machine was not working during the process, he's explaining to this judge exactly how it would have worked had it worked out the way he wanted it to. And then I'll just kind of click again and it will stop. Okay? Now everything in purple is just what I recorded right now. And so as we watch it now, here's what's going to play out. In this video you're seeing Sawyer showing his Rube Goldberg machine to a judge. Now, in the event his Rube Goldberg machine was not working during the process, he's explaining to this judge exactly how it would have worked had it worked out the way he wanted it to. Okay, so that kind of gives you a way to elaborate and let your audience know what they're seeing, and you can do that. Now, some other cool effects you could do is if I go back to my title or my text screen right here, what's kind of cool is this is a really neat one for things like I'm about to show you. If I drag it up and put it right here, notice anything that's in blue is where the text will cover, and I'm going to drop it. And so this is where I'm going to give some credit to Sawyer. We'll put Rube Goldberg right here. And down here I'll put okay, I'm going to say done. And this is 13 seconds. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. This one is 4 seconds long. 4 seconds long is a pretty good amount of time for stuff to show up on screen. I guess I capitalized the this. You can see it up here. So it's okay. It's just for sample anyway. So here we go. In this video you're seeing Sawyer showing his Rube Goldberg machine to a judge. Now, in the event his... so, if you notice, what you want to do too is as your editor of this video, if you can read it and it takes you just barely enough time to get it read before it goes off screen, you know what you wrote. So you're going to read it much faster than somebody else that's seeing it for the first time. And when I first saw it for the first 4 seconds, I was just kind of looking at it here on screen. I didn't catch it all. And I don't know if y'all did or not, but I'm going to go ahead and extend that time just so that my audience has a little bit longer to watch it. So I'm going to probably go out to an 8-second view of that. And then I'll watch it again. In this video you're seeing Sawyer showing his Rube Goldberg machine to a judge. Now, in the event his Rube Goldberg machine was not working during maybe too long, maybe should have gone 6 seconds, but that's okay. Doesn't hurt anything for it to be there a little bit longer. If anything, if Sawyer were to watch it, he'd feel glad that his name was up there a little bit longer. Some things I've also noticed that tends to drive more interest in watching videos is if it's not just your voice all the time, if you have some background music that's real subtle behind your voice. And so we'll add a little bit of background music to what I just said. And then sometimes letting things that he's doing cut in there a little bit also works pretty well. And we'll probably stop here at this point. Probably already hammered you with enough stuff to at least make your head spin a little bit. But I know that that video of Sawyer is 15 seconds long. And I want to go ahead and try to find music that will cover the full span. I can always shorten it if I want to. But right now I'm looking at music that's 7 seconds. I'm back in my jingles folder again. And I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to things that are 15, 16 seconds or so. That's a good, this music right here is really good if you got still slides coming in. It kind of adds more interest. That fast beat music is not stuff I like behind my voice. Not too bad. I'm going to pull that glide short. And I'm just going to drag it to the front of the video again. You can have multiple layers of audio. You'll just see them stacking below you. So when I drop it, you'll see it right here, glide short. Now, glide short at 100% is going to overpower my voice. Yeah, you're seeing Sawyer. Oh, no, it didn't. Let me tell you why. Okay. If I double click my voice recording, there's a button that's clicked automatically. When I go to audio, you'll see this ducking. Ducking means if I'm talking, reduce any other volumes behind my voice. It automatically does that. Which means if I break away, then the other music will come up. And that's kind of a cool effect. But I want to show us what would happen if we did not duck it. So I'm going to turn off ducking for a minute. Now if you'll listen to it. That's a common mistake students make when they submit videos to you. They're trying to add enhancements to their videos, but they tend to make the audio or the music overpower them. And so one way you can do that without using ducking is say, I want to override my ducking. So I want to go to that glide short, which is my music. I'm going to double click it, go to audio, and I'm going to drop it down to about 15%. Okay, so it's as if I'm not using that ducking button. So now when I play it, yeah, you're seeing Sawyer showing his Rube Goldberg machine to the judge. Now, in the event his Rube Goldberg machine was not working during the process, he's explaining to this judge exactly how it would have worked had it worked out the way he wanted it to. Okay, so that's kind of how that works out. We'll stop here now because it's 4:38 right now, and I would rather get you out of here earlier than later. And this is a whole lot to chew on for now. What I would encourage you guys to do is just kind of play around with things. You're not going to hurt a single thing. You can always create a new project by just going File and saying New Project and just saying Practice and say Create. And what it will do is give you a new one to work with. If you notice, all my stuff down here is still here to play with because it's saying, here's my file of video. And so you can continue to work with it if you want. You haven't lost what you've worked on today because all I have to do is go to Project Library and here's what I've been working on here. Yeah, this is what I've been playing with. I think I overwrote one I've been working on, and that's okay. I've already recorded that one. But anyway, we'll go with that. And there's nothing you can hurt in this. And you never have to save anything in iMovie, which is kind of scary. It's always saving behind the scenes. So when you go to File and you're looking for save, it's not there. Command S doesn't work. There has been times where I've crashed in the middle of working on something, and I have lost about a couple minutes worth of work, but it's not so much that I don't get so agitated. You may have had other programs crash on you in the midstream. This does a pretty good job of holding on to your stuff. But we'll pick up on this and we'll move forward next Monday. And then I noticed on the calendar, I don't know if I told everybody in here, but we have a few Mondays we're out of school here coming up, in which case this was supposed to be a 10 Monday kind of deal. And all I'm going to do is condense it so we're not going on into the very last Monday of the year. We'll just kind of get what we can done, and I don't think it'll be a problem shortening things up a little bit. Actually got further than I intended to today, so not too bad.
Well, if you don't have a flip camera, can you video right off of this?
You can. Let me show you how to do that real quick, Darla, since you asked. Under File, where we were at earlier,
Right.
you can say Import from Camera. And what it's going to do, if it doesn't recognize a camera already connected to your laptop, then it's going to automatically give you, you'll see me here in just a second, there I am. So I can say Capture, and I can be recording right there. Now it's giving me some hesitation, probably because I have other programs opened up. See how everything's slowing down? So I want to make sure I quit out of everything and work off of it that way. Now there's another way you can do it too, and this may actually be faster. There's a program called Photo Booth, and Photo Booth does a lower end video, which means it records smoother, but it's grainier, and it's in your applications as well. And I don't have it on my board. Problem with Photo Booth is it reverses everything. So if you have text on your shirt, it's going to be backwards. But I can flip it where it shows right.
You can, because I've got a couple of videos that I did on that and
Yeah, I
discovered the same thing, so I was writing backwards
But it's
to
kind
get the.
I know. So like my Baylor shirt right now is backwards, but you can flip it and work on it that way. Hey, there's my pictures from when I did the pink out buttons. But anyway, you'll have to click on this frame right here, because those were still shots I was on right now. You'll see that the little icon turns into a video camera rather than a regular camera. And now when I'm recording, now I'm live. Well, I'm not yet. Okay, now I'm live. Whatever I'm saying is recording. And I can just say, and it shows me my seconds too, which is kind of nice.
Right.
So when I say done,
Right.
it's going to record it over to here, and you'll see it's got the little video icon.
Right.
And so now, all I have to do is take that video icon and drag it to my desktop, I believe. Hang on a minute. It's on my desktop now. And now I just go back, and I think you can flip it right here possibly. Students showed me how to do that one time. Nope, didn't work. But now I can go into iMovie and go File, Import. And don't go camera this time, just say Movies. And go to your desktop now. We'll go over this again later too, because I'll talk about it again when we do the deal. But Movie 7 is what I had. And you could always name that something if you wanted to. If you notice, here I am right here. Whatever I'm saying is recording. And I can just say... And so I can drag that up. It shows me my seconds too, which is kind of nice. But we'll start with that next time, because I'll show you how to flip it correctly.